Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, live from Putney.
Okay, 5:34.
We have a slight delay, we have a time delay just in case. We don't want the children.
We'll keep it the same.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 5th.
I will second that.
Moved and seconded to accept the minutes of September 5th. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
My turn?
All right.
You're up.
I'm starting work on the budget a little bit because I'm afraid it's going to sneak up on me. So I started to look at the bottle. Are you guys familiar with the whole bottle return and that the money goes towards the pool? Well, what I figured out is in this last fiscal year we lost money doing that. And it seems to coincide with the drop-off of the amount of bottles that are being returned, coincides with moving the recycling bins down to the fire station. So I guess what I'm looking for from you guys, I did call Tom to see what they are doing with that shed behind the fire station, thinking maybe we could move the bottle drop-off location down there to have it all in one spot. But they're using it.
I think they're using it now.
Yeah, they are. So I don't know if I'm not sure what to do. If we look into getting some type of shed down there, do we need having just one location down there, or having some drop off and then bringing the bottles up here for them to be sorted? I mean, I think we lost like 86, it was like almost break even. The amount of money we brought in and the amount of money we paid the guy that sorts the bottles.
And we normally have a surplus?
Yeah, the previous year it was like the previous year it was like $1,400. I went back in the records today, and back in 2011, they were bringing in about $5,800 worth of revenue and paying out $25. This year we brought in $2,900 worth of revenue. I'm paying out $3,000 with like the heavy expenses. So.
Do you think that relocating it down to...
Well, it's funny because I asked
Laura
today.
It does make sense.
Well, I asked Laura today, I was looking at the detail, and I said, Laura, do you know when those were moved? And as she was looking, I said, was it in December or January of 2011, and that's what she found, because there was a significant drop. You could see it just in the detail of the amounts we were bringing in each month.
Yeah, and even as it was out here, most recently it was sort of less than ideal because it wasn't next to the dumpsters. I'm guessing that if we sort of promoted it a little bit and had a shed that was a little more functional, we'd probably actually bring in more than that. Because I know a lot of people, including myself sometimes, if I only have 4 returnables and I'm dumping a container, it's like,
Yeah.
and it goes.
Well, and I said that we talked about putting a sign down there to remind people that we were still doing that. But if that were me, my immediate thing would be, well, why don't we just have a place down here?
Right, exactly.
That would be what I would say.
Yeah.
So.
What are the need? What's the dimensional needs of the head?
I don't know.
What's it need to be?
I've got to talk to. I haven't been able to catch the guy that does the sorting. I don't really know what the process is in there or how long they stay there. So that's kind of the next thing I can do is talk to him. And then Anita mentioned to me today that down at the Brattleboro, I don't know if it would be the tech center or what, they did build the shed or something for by the baseball softball field. That maybe that might be something we could.
Yeah, they could. Bob Simon.
Yeah, okay.
Simon? Simeon. Simeon.
Or even if it's not them, you know, maybe there's another.
He'd be worth touching base with,
Yeah.
definitely,
What is his
because
last
Simeon, Simeon.
Okay.
And he's a Putney resident.
He is.
Because they're always looking for projects to do.
So if you guys are, I mean, that's my thought, is to try to relocate it down there, you know, and then we can keep our eye on it, see if it does get any better, or my assumption is it's going to.
Yeah, and I think if we promoted it, it would
Oh, sure. No, it's-
improve. You know, the other thing that we've,
It's just that they need a little place just to keep it undercover.
Well, I think he sorts them.
He sorts there,
Yeah,
so.
he sorts them and then the redemption.
Yeah, yeah.
center
worth
goes in.
more if
Right.
they're
Yeah.
sorted.
Sure.
But the other thing is if you just had a shed, at a certain point, people would probably come and help themselves, so it probably has to be locked.
Locked up.
you know.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation
Yeah.
is over here. As secure as that, is not the reason.
Okay, so I'll kind of pursue that. And see what we can come up with that won't cost us a lot of money to get something down there.
Yeah, the other thing that I don't know, I mean, we should find out exactly how he does his operation, because, like, presumably there's somebody who comes and, you know, for the general store and or the co-op, they don't, you know, take their bottles. There must be somebody who comes and collects them, I would think.
Yeah,
I don't know how that works, but we can look into.
Yeah,
Because we spend, you know, it brings in a chunk, but we spend, yeah, I mean, I don't know what
distributors issue?
I don't know.
And the odd persons who pick it up? I mean, you figure it's,
I mean, this gets brought to the Chester, is it the
Pepsi or
Chester
something like
Redemption
that.
Center that comes and picks up?
Something like that.
Oh, somebody does come
Yeah,
and get
there
it?
is a
Oh,
van
okay.
that comes and picks it up,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I was
That's what you
wondering.
mean, okay,
I just didn't know whether,
Yeah, he sorts
He
it
was
and then
shopping
the
around.
van comes and picks it up and then,
Okay.
yeah. So, okay, so I'll look into that a little bit more and let you know what I figure out. Wayne Wagenbach?
yeah.
He notified Laura on Monday, I guess it was, that he has made a decision to resign from the CRT board and the Rescue Inc. board as our representative to both of those boards.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So Laura wrote up a letter. He didn't send in a resignation. She just kind of wrote up what he had said, and so I'm going to put that with the minutes. But so now we've got to be on the search for CRT and Rescue Inc. I called both of those places today because I wasn't sure what the obligation was to have a representative, what the purpose, you know, what the bylaws for the Rescue Inc. They want a representative from each town they service
Right.
on the board, and you know, similar with CRT, you know, having a representative makes it so that you don't get lost in the conversation as a town. So I don't know what has been the practice in the past, if we've put something on iPutney, if we put it in, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think we certainly could do that. As far as Rescue Inc. is concerned, probably be worth talking to Tom too and see whether somebody down there might be
Yeah.
willing and interested, I don't know.
CRT, I asked who was on the board now, and it's mostly, sounded mostly like municipal, you know, either an employee or an official, but I said to her, what about Landmark? Got somebody from, they said,
How about Gino?
no,
Gino Palmieri? Because he drives for Landmark. He might be interested, actually.
Okay, so I'll put something together and maybe put it on iPutney to see if we get any response, and I'll touch base with Tom and maybe send an email to Landmark if anybody else shows any interest. The meetings, I wanted to say it so that if people were watching this, they would know. Rescue Inc.'s meetings are the third Tuesday of every month at 6:30. And CRT is the third Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that would be the time commitment. I don't know what they ask you to do, if there's any commitment outside of the meeting times to be on committees or anything, but
There is a rescue.
there is a rescue.
I'm guessing Gino would be in your email.
Okay. All right, so Laura, I don't, you want to put that one? I've just put surplus equipment in here only because Dennis mentioned it to me about, it was probably a week ago, that he asked if I knew anything about the surplus equipment. He had come to, or maybe Dennis came, I don't know if Dennis came or if Chris came.
Dennis.
Okay, and asked if we were interested in looking into surplus equipment. He found a dump truck, I guess. And I told him that the minutes said from the meeting he came and asked you was that the select board was not opposed to the idea.
Right.
But I don't know if that means do we bring it to you if he finds something? Is that what we're, I mean, it was like, I think it was like $500. I can't even remember what the cost of this one was.
And the purpose would be leaf removal, I think, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't that
what it-
primarily
And also, I think,
Chloride.
chloride, yeah, liquid chloride,
Yeah,
so they wouldn't have to
Right,
tie
tie
the truck.
Yeah.
yeah. I guess the question is should we pursue something right now?
If it's $500, I mean, I think the way that works is that, I don't know how the surplus system, but basically they give serious deals to municipalities, so if there's a half-decent truck, we should probably look into it, I would think.
Okay, so I'll make sure that we pursue it. I just didn't know what we were.
Never hurts to look.
Yeah, there's a lot of phone numbers on this piece of paper. I tried calling a couple today, but nobody knew what I was doing. So. Call this number, call that number back later, call this guy after
Yes.
lunch.
It happens often.
Apparently, the zoning administrator, you have to officially appoint a zoning administrator.
So moved.
The planning commission nominated me at their last board meeting.
Second.
Okay, so you have to do, the official. I asked them if they wanted me to leave the room while they discussed who they wanted to
That's
appoint,
right, I think we should have some major discussion here or something.
We're going to executive.
Executive session for zoning
Go ahead.
administrator.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Cynthia as the zoning administrator. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Another hat or another t-shirt.
That was already in my contract, probably it's a good idea that I got it. Kathleen, you ready?
Get things from the printer. Do you need a chair?
However, so.
Feeling mostly better?
Yeah, it's just this cough, I feel fine.
Oh, sure, I got the chair.
Good. You
Hi, guys.
good ones?
Evening.
You getting a school cold? No.
It's had a little one, not bad so far.
I thought I'd give you a projection of the timeline for the reappraisal. Because I don't think I gave it to you last time.
Looks like everyone's going to be busy.
Do you want
Yeah.
to see?
But it does look, it is completely on target. I mean, right now, we've been doing exactly what we thought would happen. It's approximately 24 parcels a week that are completed. By completed, it means the data is collected, it's stored in the system, photos are taken, stored in the system, and a sketch is made of the buildings. These are an example of the postcards that we've sent out. You've gotten them. And this is what gets hung on the door if they're not at home.
I got one of those too.
Yeah.
The same day
And
the
they
card came in the mail.
Yeah. So one of the things that the data collectors have let me know is that in all the towns that they've done, this one has the best communication. Because when they show up, people are expecting them. And that's the biggest thing for them. Because they have a bunch of questions to ask, and they prefer that the property owner be there. Just because there are things like how old the house is.
These are all already printed out, I'm assuming?
We printed these.
Because for the next time, we should say, we would appreciate making an interior inspection for sure. For an appointment, please call. Because it doesn't imply that one is supposed to call to make an appointment.
Oh, okay. Because it does on this.
Right, no, I know, but it doesn't.
Doesn't on that.
So-
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we could do that. But hopefully it will be quite a while
Yes.
before we need to do these again. But they said that they've never worked with these and that these are very helpful, because then at least people know that they've been there. And if you see this hanging on your door, it's not the same thing as a little card tucked in the door that
Right.
could get lost. And if they are unsure of the front entrance, they hang
Put
this
more
on
than
every
one.
door, right? So that's actually very helpful for them too. But I've only gotten good feedback from people in town about the data collectors. And I'm meeting with the whole team once a month. And I'm writing up minutes on those, which I have available. I'm just keeping a book in there on the reappraisal. Anything connected with it is in there, because I want the paper trail to be there for anybody to read, whether I'm in the office or not. And I can also send around the minutes from each of the meetings. Cynthia gets them, everybody on the team gets them. I'm tempted to send them to you guys, but I also don't want to clog up your email if you don't need them. They're in my office if you want to see them. So, if there are any questions?
How many people or how many?
We have 2 data collectors
Yeah.
who are working very well together. The way that it works is they come in, I set up appointments for them, I pull the files for them because that was in our contract for me to do. And each of them are here 2 days. They might go to 3 days. One drives home each night and the other one stays at Putney. One of the things that we've noticed, that Cynthia and I have noticed, is that I have been doing more hours in the Lister's office because of the reappraisal.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can do at this point is sort of piece out how many of the hours are just dedicated to reappraisal and how many of the hours are really about regular
Yeah.
Lister business. I mean, it's not going to be exact, but I'll do the best I can with it, because those hours are part of the reappraisal
Right,
project.
makes sense, yeah.
I did speak with them at our September meeting about that, because I wanted to see if there was some way I could pare down and they could take on. But then we went over the contract, and the truth is I'm doing just what we agreed to in the contract. I'm not doing more than we agreed to in the contract. So that's good that we all know that. I'm certainly going to know more about all of this after it's done, which is why I'm keeping the notes I'm keeping, because whoever goes through this next time should have some kind of a roadmap. I really didn't have one, and our reappraisal in 2006 had some problems midway through that we're not going to have this time, because all of us are dedicated to it being a stellar project. If all goes according to plan, and so far it is, you know.
Good.
So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want any of this? You can give it back to me when you're done with it.
Hang it on your wall, put it on the bulletin board, something.
I gotta go.
So the next thing, there's a letter from, or a memo from Tom about a street name assignment. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but Greg Wilson requested that he have an official 911 street name be assigned to the privately owned access road serving these properties that are listed in the letter. The street name being requested is Frank's Way. Tom's done his due diligence on what he needs to do in order to name number of properties and all of that, so.
So moved.
He did ask me, he asked me if it was necessary that the board vote on these. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary since he's done, the only thing I said to him is let's keep this process going just to have it in the record that it was done.
I think it's.
I thought we
Yeah.
had in the past.
You had, and I
So-
think it was him just saying, I wonder, you know, is this, I've never been told whether I really have to or not, I just always have, and I said, let's just keep up that process because then we'll have a record of it.
I haven't had any real controversies over
No.
road naming, so.
Now,
Sometimes it can get a little sticky.
the only thing, well, I don't like, for example, this access is owned by Shumlin's.
Okay, so.
It goes across Shumlin property, so I'm not sure whether they need to be.
Well, I mean, the request is being made from the fire, for fire and rescue purposes, right?
Right, but you know,
I see.
Jeff could come along and say, hey.
I don't want it to be Bob's Way instead of, right, yeah.
Well,
I
and
guess-
also that it sort of establishes it as a road as opposed to just a right of way through a private property, which is what it is.
Yeah.
So I think we should find out about that
Okay.
before we.
That goes by the sugar house?
Exactly,
Right,
because
right.
it's on the downhill side, I think, of one of the square Shumlin houses. But I know it's a right of way through there.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I guess, I don't know the property, so I don't know, maybe Tom has done
But
that.
the property is the
But I'll ask
Shelley's,
him.
and the right of way belongs to the Wilsons?
The right of way belongs to the Wilsons, yes. I just think, you know, if it's a right of way, we probably shouldn't grant it a name without the
Without the
property
property
owner
knowing.
at least being notified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my understanding anyway, I could be wrong,
Okay.
but
And
we
maybe,
should probably find
maybe he
out.
was, maybe part of this.
Could be,
Yeah, and
yeah.
but I'll find that out,
Yeah.
bring it back to the next.
I will table my.
Food table, you're so moved. Okay. I'll talk to him about it tomorrow. Financial reports. I put in a balance sheet and the regular budget status report that you guys have always gotten. But I put the balance sheet in there because I just wanted to point out a couple of things and remind myself to tell you is that July, we can count the revenue for property taxes that we collected in July and August. We can count for the prior year. What was collected was our original delinquent taxes of June 30th were $151,000. After the July-August collections, they were down to $117,000.
That sounds,
So it was about
Pretty good.
$34,000 for, I mean, it did create a large entry that I had to make to the property tax revenue, which brought our fund balance down to $63,000, which I think at the beginning of the, when I closed the books, July 1st, we were at $135,000. And because of some other adjustments, some prior year expenses that needed to be coded to last year, and the $50,000 entry I needed to make to property taxes, it brought us down to 63. So it was a pretty significant drop from where we closed the books. Again, this all hasn't been audited. I got an email from John today telling me that we're at the top of the list. I don't know which list he's referring to. I mean, I don't know if it's on the list or if it's, I don't know. I was assuming it's that you're next on the list of me to finish my auditing work. I don't know. I didn't ask him which list I was on. That might be a loaded question with him and I. So the fund balance, I'm not thrilled about because I think we budgeted for $65,000 of surplus to use in this year's budget. We don't quite have that much, but
far off.
we're going to have to do some, it's the delinquent tax collections that are going to help us bring that fund balance up, so we're going to have to just work hard at collecting delinquent taxes. So, I think Anita's gotten all the taxes in, so we're at about $1 million in the bank account. We just got the last bill from M&M on the sidewalk. It looks like we're about $14,000 under budget. So getting ready to submit that final request from the state, so we should be getting some money from them. In the budget status report, there's nothing really too exciting to report. It's all basic. I don't know if there's nothing else really in the financials, unless you have any questions. Did Anita read the warrants? I did this the check that, I was just saying that we received the last bill from M&M. I talked to Andy today about that bill to make sure that that was the last one. And I didn't get it to Anita in time to put it on this warrant, but she's doing a manual check for me because they need to get paid. So there'll be an afterthought of signing for that one, but
How much is it?
39,000, I think.
And when you say there's 14,000, we're 14,000 below budget, that's including contingency, is that right? So,
Yeah, yeah. And it even has the change, I think all the change orders are in there, which was an additional, I want to say $4,000 that ended up being, yeah.
so that 14 essentially comes out of contingency, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay. Because
So-
their contract bid didn't change, it's
No,
that plus
yeah,
the expenses of not eating into the contingency.
right.
Right. Good.
This next submission that we have has a lot of time on it, a lot of Chris's time. He had been logging. Hopefully they're not too fussy about that time. They've been really, the state's been very fussy about the receipts that we've sent them. Mileage has been, fighting over
Mileage for-
55 cents compared to what was the other rate? 51.
From when it changed or something.
Yeah. How many miles it takes you to get to Putney? Yeah, somebody fudged it because they went from Waterbury to here and from somewhere else to there, and they know it's not that far.
We have a discrepancy.
I'll just go ahead while you guys are. The solar RFP committee actually they have a meeting right now at 6 o'clock, and they've met one other time, and Danny said they're moving right along with getting their information together, so you should hear from them in the time frame that we kind of gave them, which was, I think, end of November maybe. Wastewater improvement, the chemical feed building. The bids were opened last Thursday. One bid was $239,000, and the second bid was $219,000.
Are we required to accept them?
Yeah.
So, and what did we anticipate it being?
The total project for the chemical feed on the paperwork that the engineer gave us was like, I don't know, 69,000, 70,000. So when we were all very quiet, and
Who
after
was here
everybody
for it?
left, Jack from Tata and Howard, I was here, the two gentlemen that brought their bids in, and Chris Hayes.
The two
and Joe.
gentlemen that brought their bids in were here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talked about it after, and I said, what is costing so much? Of course, the bid comes in and it's just the dollar amount. It
Right,
doesn't really have
right.
a. So Jack was going to call them and talk to them and find out if we could get a breakdown of what the costs were, because it's crazy higher than
Yeah.
what we had anticipated. And one of my questions was,
Is there just some
Can we-
misunderstanding?
well, that and how much is the building? Because I don't know how much this fiberglass building
Right.
is. And Jack didn't know the answer to that, because in the bid was the building itself.
Wasn't it Tata and Howard that gave us the projected cost?
Yeah. And then the other question I had was, do we have to have someone that specializes in wastewater treatment, or could it just be a general contractor? As far as I know, it's some site work.
Yeah, because if it's like a $50,000 building, I can probably do it.
Well, Chris said he could do it for 100.
Exactly.
All right, well, I'll do it for 98.
Yeah,
Well, let's just start
this is all in good humor.
instead of an auction, we're going the other way.
So this is a sort of a prefab structure.
Yes.
That has to go on to the barn.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this prefab structure, but that's what they talked about.
Similar,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
It would
so-
Seems to be
similar
the
specs,
simplest,
right.
most cost-effective approach,
Yeah.
but if the
Wow.
unit is $190,000,
Yeah,
then maybe it
somebody
is.
is.
I mean, when I looked at
somebody's
the-
not sharing the same catalog.
When I looked at the budget, the projected budget, I said fiberglass building, $14,000 is what it says on the, I don't know, something is way off. I have no idea
Right,
what.
and fiberglass because of the, obviously, cleanability. or
Cleanability,
something.
yeah.
I don't know.
Resistance
Wondering
to
if,
just about
I mean,
everything.
at that point, yeah.
So at this point right now, Chris is worried about, even if for some reason there was a mistake and there was something in there that, I'm not sure time-wise we could get it in.
Right.
Because it's starting to get cold and they're worried about the chemicals and.
So, do we have to worry about VOSHA as far as that's concerned?
That was my question, is like, what is the is there an emergency to this situation? And they said, no, we're not quite at an emergency level. So if we have to hold off, yes.
Who said that?
Chris Hayes.
Okay. Because VOSHA, I mean,
There are
that
some
was
issues,
our
yes.
problem last
Right.
time around.
There are some issues, but it's not like we're gonna shut you down.
Right.
If this doesn't get done,
If
then-
we kept them in the loop, then
Yes.
it would be, they would say, okay, this is not like it's a
Yeah.
surprise or anything.
So,
Everyone's informed.
so that's where we're at with that. As soon as I was gonna give Jack the week to kind of
Figure out what happened.
figure out what happened and.
Yeah, no, because they owe us to figure out what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
I know, I was in the, yeah, we all just kind of like,
This is not that large a structure. Right?
no.
What's the dimension of
It's like
this?
14 by 14
Yeah.
or something.
I was gonna say, I mean,
It's not very big.
No.
And then there were some things that Chris, and that's why they wanted to go through the list, because Chris was thinking maybe there's some things in there that we've already said we would do, that for some reason they also did, because there's a lot that Chris and Joe can do. And I don't know if that's like hooking up.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
doubt that's going to be a
Just grasping, I have
That's
no
still a
idea.
lot of, right, once.
It's gotta be the building. Maybe the building is just hugely expensive, I don't know. So-
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I wonder whether, a zero got left off of that, whether it's 140,000 for the building as opposed to 14,000 or something. I mean, it's got to be of that nature, one would think, because, boy, that's a big difference.
Yeah, because between the two projects, the headworks and the building, I think it was like 89,000 or 80.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and we're not even doing that. So,
Everybody go back and look at their numbers again.
yes. So I'll touch base with him at the beginning of next week and see what he found out. I think did you get an email from me about the meeting with the abutters for the sidewalk? We're gonna have a meeting on October 10th. And we're gonna meet with, the sidewalk committee. We'll meet up at the houses on Route 5, starting with Anita's and going up and keep them in the loop of what's going on. And I think Dirk told me that he is going to bring some better visuals, whether that means
3D-ish.
3D or what, but he did say, and he didn't charge us any more for that, but I know him, they haven't said anything about it any more money, so hopefully that will help a little bit. So that's where we're at with the sidewalk. I put in a DRB, this isn't on here because there's a notice, we are abutters to this property. So, and even if we weren't abutters, you should probably know what's going on. Putney Paper is looking into doing a natural gas conversion.
Where are we at others?
What is that piece of property?
The Beatrice Aiken Conservation Site, it's actually across the river, I think, it's a legal an abutter on that property.
Are there two Beatrice Aiken conservation sites? Because Beatrice
Oh,
Acres
no, I'm
is
sorry,
right over
the
there.
Sackets Brook Conservation Site.
Which is what
Yes, I was-
Twings Mill is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was mentioned the wrong one.
So that, they did come to the DRB once already, just as a review sketch plan, kind of, just because this is something that's new in, as far as I can tell, the whole United States. So I wasn't sure zoning wise how to handle it, so we brought it to the DRB and they did decide that it needed a site plan review and an application, so that's the point we're at. So if anybody wants to come and, or has any questions about it, I've learned a lot about compressed natural gas.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's what that DRB notice is for. And then the last thing I have under other business, and this came up this morning, was Debbie Goldman Humphreys Drive called me today. We had a lot of rain last night, and her driveway, I did drive up by there today, there is a pretty good, you know, right down the driveway when she comes onto our road. I don't know how deep it is, but it's pretty good rut because the water washed right down the driveway. And she's worried she can't get out. She would like us to do something. I kind of reiterated what we talked to her about the last meeting. She stopped Brian up there today. I ended up going up to the town garage today and talking to them, you know, about, it was Brian and Brett and Skip and Jason were all there, and just kind of about, is there anything we can do? Is there anything we should do? They had a couple of suggestions. One of the suggestions that I heard a couple weeks ago about that was to put a asphalt swale, I guess, at the end of the driveway, so at least when the water comes down it, that it will not wash it out. I was told today that that would probably be a day and a half worth of work. The other suggestion was a cutout or swale, I don't know what they called it. They kind of used both terms. Up above that will help the water go down to her culvert that's under her driveway, further down the driveway. And maybe one load of, you know, half a load of gravel to fill in that. I told her there was nothing I could do, I'm not making that decision. But I didn't know if...
There's lots of ends of driveways this morning that have.
Yeah, my driveway was
Got a little washout there of mine, and where I was working, same thing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, and that they get fixed in a sort of general repairs as time goes by.
I don't know. I don't know what to, I did suggest to her again, I mean, there is a feeling from her that, and I know you guys know this, that when that road was fixed or upgraded, whatever it was that was done, that it was not done correctly, which is causing this issue. I did suggest to her again that if she was to get somebody, I don't know who that somebody is, that agrees with her, that she needs to bring that to us. Because I don't know, I'm hearing no, the road was, you know, done properly. She's saying, no, it wasn't. So I don't, we're at an impasse, really. Yeah. So I didn't know if there was a one last ditch effort we wanted to try with the suggestions that the guys made today, which was not the swale. They felt that that was a lot to ask and that it would take a lot more money than to try what they were suggesting, which was some riprap and try to get the water diverted into that other culvert. So I told her I would bring it to the board. Wasn't that nice of me?
How big physically was the rut across her driveway?
I would say it's probably 5 inches deep, 6 inches deep. I don't know, I didn't get out. And then she also did call me later and told me that she went out and measured down below her driveway, which is actually in the right of the way of the town. It's a 9-inch. There is along the well, when you're going down along the left-hand side of the road, there is a, there is a pretty significant, but I did not get out and measure. Except, I don't know if I'm very good at measuring that just by looking.
I mean,
Well, in the course of regular repairs, you know, it seems reasonable to, you know, affect the repairs that would be done to the road anyway. But beyond that, I can't see. Which it sounds like. And for the most part, when it washes out in front of, you know, driving, I mean, on our road at least, the next time it gets graded, you know, is when it gets filled there again.
right, of course, that won't happen there because
It just
because
gets
it won't
graded.
get graded. Well, no, because it's blacktop, but,
Oh, on pre-strip, you're
Right.
speaking of. Well, it's not, isn't it not like a sure pack, like a hard pack?
for a driveway, but not, no, it's,
It's good.
They
asphalt.
chopped it, I don't know what the term is, but they were telling me today that it's some type of chopped up, and then they press it back
Chip.
down. and-
Chip seal.
Exactly.
Reclaim.
But it's asphalt for
Yeah.
all practical
Yeah.
purposes, but,
I mean, this is gonna, we all know, it's gonna be an
gonna keep
ongoing,
going, coming
it's an
back.
ongoing thing. My concern with this suggestion that the guys made today is that the culvert, if the water is diverted into that culvert ditches, it ends up on her property,
Right,
which is another issue
that she
That-
already complained about.
that she already
also.
complained about, so I'm not
Which
sure.
was plainly the natural course of the water.
Right.
for long before the road was
Yeah.
repaired, was that it crossed the road and went into that culvert and went down.
Yeah, and I don't know if it would be beneficial to get a third party's opinion for our sake on this, of somebody going out there and saying, I don't know, I mean, that's just, it's going to be,
No,
her
it doesn't.
concern right now is getting out of her driveway. I didn't try to drive in or out of the driveway, I mean, I have a different vehicle than her, so,
I don't know. I mean, my feeling is that if we quote unquote fix this, like you say,
We'll be back
it's,
again and again and again.
exactly. I mean, we've already determined that we, the town, should not be responsible for, it's on her private property that there's an issue. And yes, the road is dumping water on there. All of us have roads that get water dumped on them, but if we go and fix that glitch for her, I mean, I don't know, a swale that would prevent it from going down her driveway would have to include, the lay of the land is basically that the road is there, her driveway comes in, there's the one culvert up above, which we're not going to be able to get all the water to go in there, so we're talking about some sort of a swale just above her driveway. Then we're making a change to her driveway in order to do this, and, in general, we don't do that.
yeah, and
But, I don't know.
I mean, and that's what I tried to tell her today, that she has the opinion that that she never had an issue until this fix that we did to pre-strive.
Yes. that is
So her
Her contention.
contention is that that fix was done improperly. I have nothing to tell me whether it was or not. I mean, I'm saying that it wasn't.
Well,
Because-
anecdotally, she used to complain before
Mhm.
the fix was done. But I don't know whether we have, select board notes to that effect or anything. But I think that's the case, wasn't it?
It
I'm
was,
pretty
it was
sure.
pretty
She
short
told me
fire.
that, because I mentioned that to her, and she said that there was a couple things she said a year before the fix, and that's it. She said before that, she said, you can ask Dennis, that before that, I never complained about any of it,
I
and,
don't think Dennis would back her up on that.
well, I did say to her that there's a lot of people being drawn into this discussion when I talked to her, and that a lot of names are being added to it, that they've said this, and I said, well, maybe it's time for us all to get in the same room, because that's not what I'm hearing from those same people.
I mean, we have, that's the problem.
Yeah.
We've all gone there with
Yeah.
Dennis, we've all stood there
Yeah. But
with
she's
the town
brought some
manager,
other-
with us,
yeah.
with Dennis, you know.
And that's, I mean, I told her I would bring it to you again, and I mean, I'll put something in writing to her I mean, that's been done before, I just don't know. And then from this point on, when she calls, it'll just be the answer, that there's nothing we can do. That's fine, if that's what the,
But do we revisit it or not? We've spent an inordinate amount of time talking about this woman's water issues on her property. Not just since you came,
no,
but,
I know that.
you know, we spent multiple hours dealing with this before, and we decided that it was her issue, not our issue. So I don't know whether we, you know, do we give it one more shot, or have we already given it the
One more
16
shot.
shots that it already deserved more than it warranted? You know, I don't know.
Well, I think if she, you know, made that effort to get an outside,
Right.
reliable outside opinion and brought it before us, then that might bear some consideration beyond that.
I mean, we've certainly told her to do that.
Beyond
Well,
that.
and that's
we're
what I
back-
said
we're right
today,
back to-
was
to-
that I think
I
it's-
said, they said.
I said, I think the discussion is going to continue in the same direction every single time,
Right.
from one side to the other, until you get a credible person with credentials in this type of environment to tell you, yes, you're right, they're wrong. You know, there's gotta be something. I said, because there's not, I just haven't heard that from anybody I've talked to, other than you.
And simply talking to a excavation contractor and saying, what do you think?
Is not,
Doesn't really qualify as that. That's, you're gonna get just their anecdotal thing.
well, and the other thing
Well,
is
maybe,
even,
maybe it did, maybe it didn't. you know.
even talking to that person, are they willing to put anything on paper? And she's not gotten anybody to, no, I mean, because you're right, it is their kind of opinion of how they see it, maybe not.
So until it, you know, moves beyond that, I don't think we have any actionable.
Okay.
Was there,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, if
No.
you know, if we compare it to, you know, the East Putney Brook Road situation.
Right, that's just what I was thinking about, that situation that was down there at the bottom of
Right.
the hill, where it was a case where, you know, clearly the road had changed.
Right.
Right, you know, and that without, you know, proper correction. And we did, you know, help mitigate that too, as well as we could.
Yeah,
It's just,
different set of circumstances.
it's
I
a
don't,
different,
I don't know. I mean, I guess the question is there a reasonable, I mean, you know, if we were to go in and do something above her driveway, put a little swale in there, it is gonna dump it into that culvert. And then she does also have the complaint already. She has complained
Right,
about
the
the
issue
fact
that
that the culvert under her driveway is causing a washout
Down below.
down below. So if we are, you know, in theory, putting more water into there,
Right,
are we assuming, you know,
right, then
I would guess
we
in
are
our
taking
opinion.
action that directly, you know,
Exactly.
is making it
So,
worse.
you
So,
know,
we're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
yeah.
Uh,
And if we divert it
And
so
it's
it goes
definitely
down
not
below her driveway,
our
it's
prerogative.
gonna have all that sheeting action down below that she's already complained about, and then, you know, it's washing.
That really
And then-
drops down there.
What it would
And
take
then her
would
pine
be,
trees are gonna get sucked into that.
what it would take would be
Full
an
in.
agreement of, you know, some culpability on her part and some expense on her part. In other words, that culvert beneath her driveway needs replacement or attention.
Yep, if
It's
we're
plainly on her
gonna
property.
think about putting more water
If she
into it.
was to expend that energy towards that and in conjunction with work being done above on the road, that might be a reasonable, you know, compromise, but we haven't seen any sign of that kind of willingness. It's all been, you made this situation.
So how do you feel about instead of that option, the other option of putting this asphalt switch so it won't eat the gravel at the end of her driveway? 'Cause
It's
that-
gonna take a day and a half and the cost of asphalt? No, we don't, I mean, we
Okay.
don't do that for,
You're right. I
we
mean,
Yeah.
we don't do that for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when she was explaining to me that we did it, you know, I think what she's thinking is totally different than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because those are aprons that would dump more water down.
Right. And
The way
those
I
are,
see it, I mean,
that's,
I'm no water expert.
and that's standard practice. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, if she, yeah, it wouldn't help her to have, her road is at grade
Right.
with the pavement, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure what I'm saying is what we're all, I believe that I am. So I will put something in writing to her, but I guess to the fact that until she brings us something, this subject is
Yeah. Well,
done. That to get out of the driveway this week, she's got to get somebody in there to fix it.
I mean, did it look that way to you? I mean, you know, I definitely had washing on my driveway, but it wasn't anything that I would be concerned I wasn't gonna get out of. I mean,
Me personally, I would not be concerned getting out of there. I have a different vehicle than
right,
she does.
right.
I live on a road that's continually has huge, so I don't even think about it.
Right. No, I mean, because I think that was our recommendation to her at that time, was that she create a little swale in the sure pack of her driveway so that it didn't wash. You know, that's what we
Right.
said she should
It's
do.
her, you know, she seems unwilling to take any action.
Right.
To remediate it, you know,
Right.
even the simplest actions.
So it may be
On
that
her part.
you know, that ditch that was dug out by the water is the indicator of the natural
I'm sure.
course of the water,
As you
and
say.
that's where she needs to address, you know?
I mean, I don't want to make light of her situation,
No.
feeling like
No,
she
no,
can't get
no,
out. I
no.
know, it's just
But-
that me looking at it, I would probably be like, "Bah."
It needs a little, it needs a little
Yeah,
dirt.
exactly. You
Needs a
got-
little
I
dirt.
would, that would
all
be
in the
me. I
hole
mean, I'm
and-
not, you know, not everybody's me, so I get
No,
that.
but that's also what we've said, that we
Yeah.
all, I mean, we all spend time on our driveways with shovels and rakes, and that's the way it is. I mean, you know, she's not able to do that, I guess. So that's unfortunate for her, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean that we assume that responsibility.
Okay. I will put something together and I will call her tomorrow and talk to her. I'll probably just go see her.
Welcome to the mean list.
I think that's what John put me on, that top of that list John Budget put me on, maybe was the mean list.
Target.
I'll have to ask him that tomorrow. What list am I at the top of?
Okay. Is that it?
Well, I do want to go into executive session for.
Right, no,
Yeah,
but
but
motion to
besides
adjourn.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Second.